A very good day to all of you students. Today I shall teach you class 9th Civics lesson 1. Name of the chapter is Democracy in the Contemporary World, and it's the second part of this chapter. Student, we have read two features of the democracy. One is the Chile. There was a democratic government led by Allende, and it was replaced by a non-democratic military government of Pinochet. And again there was a restoration of democracy. And student, in Poland there was a non-democratic government and it was replaced by the democratic government. Student, democracy is a form of government that allows the people to choose their rulers. Student, in a democracy only leaders elected by the people should rule the country, and people have the freedom to express their views. People have the freedom to organize and they have a freedom to protest. Student, democracy is a form of government for the people, of the people, by the people. Student, our point is different phases in the expansion of democracy. In France, the democratic setup began with the French Revolution in 1789. And student, throughout the 19th century, democracy in France was overthrown and restored several times. In Britain, the progress towards the democracy started earlier than in France, but student, it was very slow, and the powers of the monarchy were reduced. The right to vote was granted to more and more people. Student, in the British colonies in North America became independent in 1776 and formed the USA. They adopted a democratic constitution in 1787. Right to vote was limited. Student, in the 19th century, the main demand remained right to vote. And by 1900, New Zealand was the only country where every adult had the right to vote. In the 19th century, struggle for democracy often centered around the political equality, freedom, justice, and their major demand was right to vote without any discrimination. Student, as a result of it, many countries granted right to vote to all the adult men, women, rich or poor, white or black. For example, student, Britain in 1928, Sri Lanka in 1931, India got the right to vote in 1950. Student, in Ghana, after independence in 1957, Nkrumah became the first prime minister and then the president of Ghana. He had got himself elected president for life, but in 1966 he was overthrown by the military. And our next point is main features of the recent phase, that is after 1980 in the expansion of democracy. First, Poland and several other countries became free from the control of the Soviet Union during the 1989-90 disintegration of Soviet Union in 1991 into 15 republics. Next, student, Pakistan and Bangladesh made a transition from army rule to democracy in 1990. And in Nepal, the king gave up many of his powers to become a constitutional monarchy. And student, in Pakistan, General Musharraf brought back army rule in 1999. In 2005, the new king of Nepal dismissed the elected government and took back political freedom of the people. Student, in 2006, once again the powers of the king in Nepal had been taken away and democratic government was set up. Student, it may be concluded that more and more countries adopted democracy as by 2005. About 140 countries were holding multi-party elections. But student, there are still many countries where people do not have political freedom and no voice or role in the decision making process? Myanmar is one such country. Student Aung San Suu Kyi is a political leader of Myanmar, Burma. Myanmar got independence in 1948. Democratic rule ended with a military coup in 1962. Student in 1990, elections were held and Suu Kyi won the elections, but the military ruler refused to accept the election result. Student Suu Kyi and other political leaders were arrested. Suu Kyi is still under house arrest, but she struggled for the democracy. She has been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Student, there is no democracy in Myanmar. People cannot express their opinion freely. They cannot elect their leaders. They cannot take big decisions. And Suu Kyi are under house arrest, and the other political activists are also jailed. The military ruled government has adopted coercive policies, and student about 6 to 10 lakh people have been uprooted from their homes and have taken shelter elsewhere. Next point is the democracy promotion. Student, Iraq is a country in Western Asia. It became independent from British rule in 1932, and Saddam Hussein played a key role in the 1968 coup that brought the party to power. This government abolished traditional Islamic law and gave women the right to vote. Student, after becoming the president of Iraq in 1979, Saddam ran a dictatorial government and suppressed any opposition, and he killed persons of the ethnic minorities. Student, the US and its allies like Britain alleged that Iran possessed secret nuclear weapons and other weapons of the mass destruction, which posed a big threat to the world. But student, when a UN team went to the Iraq to search for such weapons, it did not find any kind of things. Still, the US and its ally invaded Iraq, occupied and removed Saddam Hussein from the power in 2003, and the US installed an interim government of its preference. The war against Iraq was not authorized by the UN Security Councils. Kofi Annan, the UN Secretary General, said that US war on Iraq was illegal. Our next point is democracy at the global level. So first we raise a question that who makes the laws and rules to govern the cities that don't fall within the boundaries of any country. So student, the UN is a global association of nations of the world to help cooperation in the international law, security, economic development, and social equity. Student, the UN Secretary General is its chief administrative officer. And next student, we raise a question that what happens when a country attacks another country in an unjust manner. So student, the UN Security Council, it is an organ of the UN and it is responsible for maintaining peace and security among the countries. It can put together an international army and take action against the wrongdoers. Next, we can raise question that who lends money to the government when they need it. Student, the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank give loans to the government. Before lending, they ask the concerned government to show all the accounts and direct it also to make changes in its economic policies. Student, International Monetary Fund is one of the biggest money lenders for any country in the world. Student, its 188 member states do not have equal voting rights, and the vote of each country is weighed by how much money it has contributed to the IMF. More than 52% of the voting power in the IMF is in the hands of only 10 countries. And these countries: US, Japan, Germany, France, UK, China, Italy, Saudi Arabia, Canada, and Russia. Student, the president of the World Bank has always been citizen of the US, conventionally nominated by the Treasury Secretary, Finance Minister of the US government. Student, 20 years ago, there were two big powers in the world, the US and the Soviet Union. Student, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the US appears to be the only superpower in the world. This American dominance affect the working of the international organizations. Student, I have taught you the complete chapter. I think you might have understood. So student, you like it and share it to the other student to get education, and you subscribe it for my next educational video. Thank you. Have a nice day. God bless you all.